The air in the studio hung thick and heavy, not with the scent of paint, but with the unspoken tension that vibrated between Anya and Leo. Anya, a sculptor with hands that could coax life from clay, and Leo, a photographer whose lens captured the raw truth hidden beneath the surface. They'd been collaborators, friends, and now, something else. Something that simmered just beneath the veneer of professional respect. It had started subtly, a lingering touch of fingers when passing tools, a shared glance that held a beat too long. But tonight, the air felt different. Tonight, the sculpture Anya had been working on, a twisted, powerful figure in bronze, seemed to mirror the turmoil within her. "The lighting's perfect," Leo said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through her very core. He was behind her, moving the large studio light, and the heat from his body was a tangible thing. Anya didn't turn. She focused on the curve of the bronze, the cool metal a stark contrast to the warmth that was spreading through her. "Almost," she murmured, her voice catching slightly. "A little more on the right." He moved closer, his chest brushing her back as he adjusted the light. The contact was fleeting, accidental, but it sent a jolt of electricity through her. She could smell the faint musk of his skin, mingled with the faint scent of darkroom chemicals. She knew, in that instant, that their unspoken dance was about to take a different step. Leo didn't move away. He stayed there, the warmth of his body pressed against hers, his breath soft against the nape of her neck. "Anya," he breathed, his voice thick with a want she understood perfectly. She finally turned, her breath hitching as she met his gaze. His eyes, usually sharp and focused, were dark with a desire that mirrored her own. They were standing so close now, the air between them humming with an almost palpable energy. "Leo," she whispered, her voice barely audible, her hand instinctively reaching out to touch his cheek. His skin was warm beneath her fingers, the stubble rough against her palm. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs tracing the line of her jaw, his eyes never leaving hers. "I've wanted this for so long," he confessed, his voice husky. She didn't need words. She knew. She had seen it in the way he looked at her, in the way his hand lingered on her arm, in the way his gaze held a silent promise. He lowered his head, his lips finding hers in a kiss that was both tender and urgent, a desperate merging of two souls that had been yearning for this connection for far too long. It was a kiss that stripped away the pretense, the professionalism, the carefully constructed walls they had built around themselves.
The kiss deepened, their bodies pressing closer, the heat building between them like the kiln that sat silently in the corner of the studio. They moved, not consciously, but as if drawn by an invisible force, their hands exploring each other's bodies with a newfound urgency. The humid air hung heavy in the small, dimly lit room. Sweat slicked against their skin as they moved in the languid rhythm of shared desire. Her fingers dug into the smooth expanse of his back, nails leaving faint trails that mirrored the burning path his lips had carved on her neck. Each breath was a ragged gasp, each touch a spark, igniting a wildfire of sensation. The world narrowed to the feel of skin against skin, the taste of salt and passion, and the low moans that filled the space between them. Time seemed to dissolve, leaving only the primal dance of bodies intertwined and the intoxicating surrender till he pulled her closer, his hands tracing the curves of her back, making her gasp. She tangled her fingers in his hair, pulling him closer, craving the feel of his mouth against hers. They stumbled backward, the hard edge of her workbench bumping against her thighs. He broke the kiss, his breath ragged, his eyes smoldering. "Here," he said, his voice thick with desire, and without another word, he lifted her onto the workbench, the cool metal a stark contrast to the heat of their bodies. The rest of the night unfolded in a tangle of limbs and whispered desires, the air thick with the scent of sweat and raw, uninhibited passion. The studio, once a space for creation, became a haven for two souls finally giving into the inevitable. There were no words, no flowery pronouncements of love, just the pure, raw expression of a connection that had been denied for too long. It was a dance of bodies, of sighs and moans, of exploring and discovering, a symphony of pleasure that echoed through the studio walls. As dawn broke, painting the studio in soft, golden light, they lay tangled together, their bodies still humming with the aftermath of their passion. The silence was comfortable, heavy with the weight of shared intimacy, the unspoken understanding that their relationship had been irrevocably changed. Enya turned her head, tracing the line of Leo's jaw with her fingers, a soft smile playing on her lips. He opened his eyes, meeting her gaze with a look of such profound tenderness that it stole her breath away. Their love wasn't built on grand gestures or flowery words, but on the quiet understanding of two souls who had found their match in the raw, messy, and undeniably powerful connection that had exploded between them in the heart of their studio. It was a love that was as explicit and undeniable as the bronze sculptures and stark photographs they created, a love that was real, raw, and utterly irrevocably theirs.